All right, gang. So, Val, get you in a place where we're ready to go now? Ready to get everything sorted? Okay, good. Good, good, good. Let's give Val another round of applause. Okay, so there is an order. And again, going in a linear fashion, we are now on day 3. And so now what we're going to be covering is we've gone from how to fill your funnel full of opportunities, how to underwrite those and underwrite the market, look at the market to determine whether it's a deal or not, how to begin to build your capital stack, talking with Live Oak Bank, and what your cost of capital looks like, and more importantly, how do you get that deal across the finish line and get the ultimate yes and a loan commitment from the lender. So now we are under contract. We talked a little bit about due diligence and the things that you need to look at by way of the site tour. And so we are now preparing to close. So we don't start thinking about property management, after we close at the closing table or a couple days before or a week before. We begin preparing for the transition and management really from day one. Once we get a signature on the purchase and sale agreement, we're already thinking about it because that should go into your underwriting and analysis. How am I going to manage this facility? Am I going to handle this on my own? Am I going to do it in-house? On my own, meaning I'm not as the owner, going to be behind the desk and managing that store, and it is a store. Am I going to run it unmanned? Am I going to put a kiosk in here, or am I going to rely on the website and everybody else who is using their kiosk that they put in their pocket every day to rent the units and pay rent? Or am I going to have a full-blown third-party property management company on site with a staff and a half, 1.5 persons working that site, and they're handling all the ancillary income streams and driving revenue at the site that way? So there's lots of considerations, and the time to begin thinking about it is about the time that you have uncovered this opportunity that then turns into a deal. We need to be looking at this extremely important piece, because not only is it an expense item, it is the second most important and second most expensive line item on your expense category next to property taxes. But then also, as I said before, we don't want to buy a $1 million asset. Certainly don't want to buy a $3 million asset and then try to minimize as much as possible the cost in the management side by hiring our hairstylist because she's really nice and I think she'll do a good job behind the counter when people come in. We're not looking for a caretaker. We're looking for somebody who is a salesperson. We're looking at a person who understands business and that they know how to drive the performance of this $3 million investment that you just put him or her in charge of, under your direction, but in charge of. So we're going to begin to make sure that you're thinking a little bit differently about management. It is not just the second most expensive line item in your expense category. This is what drives the value of that asset that you just purchased. This is not a set it and forget it business and I got a warm body in here or I got a machine that is hopefully going to crank out rentals for me. This is the critical piece that from day one it has to be in place to capture each and every lead, and then once they become a customer to be able to maximize that relationship and then keep them as long as possible. There we go. I think we're done. Do you still want to talk? I think we summed it up. All right. So, as we've stated a couple times before, this is coveted space here. There's a whole lot of folks that would like to come in and to be able to speak at the Self Storage Academy, because obviously we're the best at what we do, and the folks that leave here go out and do what we have been teaching for the past 3 days. And so we only bring one management company in to be able to talk about what this looks like and to teach about it. And nobody gets to be on this stage unless they have a heart for and care for the folks that we are entrusted to. And so we are good stewards of all of you and our business. And we have been very well taken care of by Copper Storage Solutions. Copper Storage, Bob Copper. I'll start back there with Bob, and I'll keep this short. Bob and I, he's been in the business for about 10 years longer than I have in terms of consulting, in the line of work of consulting, feasibility studies, and then getting into third-party management. And Bob Copper, when I say that he has seen everything in our industry. The guy's an amazing machine, the amount of work that he gets done and the retention of everything that he has seen and the ways that people are managing facilities, we get the benefit of when he consults with us, and then also on the management side that he can take a look at our site and a market and instantly know exactly what is supposed to happen and how this thing is supposed to be run and run efficiently. So we use them in a third-party management capacity. I can't tell you the countless tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees that I have given to Bob Copper's companies for consulting, and every last one of them, every last penny was worth it. Even if the feasibility study comes back and says no. I'm thankful for that no, because that means that we didn't make a mistake. So as he has evolved into a management company, their niche is really in the unmanned facilities. So utilizing the technology that's out there in the marketplace, as well as the technology that's available in our industry to be able to manage these as effectively as possible. But what Tess is going to do is she's going to talk not only just about that segment, but truly, all-encompassing from, 101 standpoint, the considerations in terms of management, and then what you need to be doing in each and every one of the management categories, and how to address that within your specific facility based upon the size, its location, and how you plan to manage it. So to set you up for success during a transition, and even before that, Tess comes to us from Copper Storage, but then also she has 8 years in the industry working for Live Oak Bank. And so Live Oak Bank, as you know, and when we spoke with Anna the other day, she has been, Live Oak Bank has been coming to our academies for a number of years, and Terry Campbell was one of the representatives that would come out and speak with us over and over again to the academies, and he is now with Copper, and so he poached his number one candidate. He didn't poach. He asked, and Tess is now has also both sides of the business, understands, and she's seen an awful lot in terms of facilities, moving on the finance side and the underwriting and management, and now in charge of management and marketing at Copper Storage Solutions. So with that, let's give a warm Academy welcome to Tess with Copper Storage Solutions.
Been with Copper for 6 months. Really excited to be here and speak to you all today. It's really always great to get people together and talk about the industry and see how much interest in the industry there is, and have these conversations and bring in vendors and just learn all the facets of self-storage. Love the people in self-storage. Love everyone that I've worked with, met at trade shows, had random phone calls with. So it's really exciting to always keep the momentum going. Copper started in 2019. Brett Copper, Bob's son, started our company. He is the director of operations, and he also is a partner in the company. What they did was they took their existing portfolio of facilities, about 9 facilities, and they tested this fully remote model. So today I'm going to talk to you about fully remote third-party management. They figured out it worked, they figured out how to scale it, and today we manage over 150 facilities nationwide. So we are rapidly growing. I would say we're primarily in the southeast, but we've moved up north and we've moved up west, and we continue to find interest from all facets of the industry. We are the largest third-party fully remote management company, non-REIT, and we're also the only SBA-approved one. So we're going to talk a little bit about that when we get to underwriting. So unmanned facilities, what makes it work? We actually don't love the term unmanned. There are a ton of different management models you can go towards. You can do a hybrid model, you can do a hub and spoke, you can do the traditional model. We like to call our facilities remotely managed facilities, because what we've found over the years with a lot of trial and error is that you have to have human elements as part of your business. Even if technology drives your business, you have to have real people to talk to. So thinking about the evolution of storage, you probably heard a lot of this throughout the past couple of days, so I'll try to summarize this. Starting back 30 years ago, small facility in a rural market, think your mom and pop. They probably own the facility. They probably also run the facility on a day-to-day basis. Moving into the past 10 years, where companies like 10 Federal introduced the kiosk element, really brought technology into a facility, and maybe you had what you called a hybrid model. So you've got someone behind the desk, but maybe they're not there, 9 to 5, and you also have the kiosk option for folks to utilize. And then thinking about a modern facility, and why can't it be fully automated, right? Even before COVID, our expectations of how we did business was a lot. We did a lot by our phones, by our tablets. We had the ability to interact with businesses at any time of day. So why should storage be any different? I hear a lot, wow, your model is really the way of the future. Well, it's the way of today. If you keep up with the news, Extra Space just bought Jefferson Shreve for $590 million, and that speaks volumes into itself. So these REITs are getting into the automated model. Why can't your facility follow the same path? Jefferson Shreve, I believe it was out of Ohio, 590 million. It was about 107 facilities. They do, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So the REITs have a little bit of a different model because the majority of their facilities are on the larger scale and they can't physically go fully remote. They have what they call a hub and spoke a lot of times, so someone oversees about 3 or 4 facilities within a region. So what do we do? What do we manage? We really take care of the day-to-day in and out management of your facility. Starting with, I think, our biggest differentiator, we have a call center that we built in-house. It's a 2-tier system, and it is open 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. So we have that call center element where, someone can rent a unit online, they can pay online, but if they need to talk to a person, if they have a question or concern, we give them real people to talk to. We've also recently implemented chatbots on our sites, and I can talk about that too. But if someone needs a quick question answered, they have the capability to chat someone right then and there. However, you don't always want to go the technology route. You need to talk to someone, you need to understand what you're getting into, you need your questions answered, and that's where the call center is critical. The only ancillary service we offer is day-to-day bookkeeping. So we are not accountants, but if you want us to handle your monthly P&Ls, we can do that through Storage, which is our integrated software, and that is a service that we also offer. Contactless unit rentals. So we give people the ability to rent, pay, unlock their units, all through technology again, through text messaging and through online portals. However, you always have that call center to fall back on if they need to speak to someone. Collections. So when we take over a facility, we completely remove cash. We give about a 60-day transition period. We found that 1 in 100 tenants walk away, and it's probably not the person you want dropping off a check every 3 months. So we'll talk a little bit about over-communication and how we transition to our model later, but we completely handle the collections process of your facility, and our call center does both inbound and outbound calls. Marketing, everyone's favorite subject. So how many of you are owners in the audience? A handful, okay. And how many of you do your own marketing and or do your own management? Perfect. Okay, so marketing. We work with a third-party vendor called Go Local Interactive. They specialize in self-storage marketing, and they will build your website or transition your website for you. You'll still get your branding, your colors, your logo, but what they'll do is they'll completely get you to the point where you have a full suite website, and they're handling all of the localized SEO and PPC that comes with that. So you're getting real-time results on, is my marketing working? How much am I paying for ads? How many clicks am I getting? How many conversions am I getting? All the important things as an owner, you want insight in to make sure that your marketing is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Maintenance management. So this is where the human element also comes into play. We have what we call site coordinators. This is like a district manager role. They oversee about 10 to 15 facilities within a region, and they're going to be your point of contact. They're going to be your eyes and ears of your facility. You can meet with your site coordinator via phone, via Zoom, as frequently as you need to. If you need to hire a vendor for something, they will handle all of that for you. So again, you're not having to deal with the headaches that go into the day-to-day management of your facility. We outsource a lot of these things, but all of these folks are Copper employees. In addition to a site coordinator, we have what we call a 1099, a boots on the ground 1099 employee. And we hire, manage, and train this person. They are very close in proximity to your facility, and they're gonna walk it at least 1 time a week, depending on the size. This person's gonna do everything from pick up trash, to unlock locks, to be your landscaper. We give them essentially a checklist that you approve, and they also have to provide pictures to you, to the site coordinator on a week-to-week basis to make sure that they're showing up and doing their job. So that's really another example of that human element. Auctions. So if you've never had to deal with auctions, they are not the easiest thing in the world, but we handle all of the auction process for you behind the scenes. We follow all the state lien laws. We use 2 technology-driven companies, and I'll talk about those as well. But again, that's one less thing that you have to take care of. And then I think one of our other big differentiators is you get access to an entire revenue management team that works in-house with Copper. So they're going to make sure that you're up to par on street rates. They're going to work with you quarterly to raise those rates. And that's part of our monthly fee. So instead of having to outsource that or depend on websites to do that, you get a full revenue management company to take into account your facility and where it needs to be to ultimately give you more money. So winds of change, customer service expectations, hiring challenges, modern paradigms, technology, less risky developments. We can go into all of those. Winds of change. So even before COVID, and I don't want to keep bringing that up, the way that we do business and the way that we live our everyday lives, we expect easy, quick, convenient interactions with businesses. Whether you're ordering food online or checking into a hotel or a flight, there's less human interaction overall. Again, we all need to speak to someone sometimes, and we're not pushing that this is the only way to go, but having less interaction is part of our day-to-day lives, and we should expect that in all types of business. Hiring challenges. So Brett uses a statistic that he heard at the Texas Self-Storage Association that most owners hire and fire about 2 managers a year. So that's a 200% turnover rate, meaning you are taking the time out of your day, out of your schedule, to hire and train someone that may or may not walk away halfway through the year. This is not always the case. Some people have managers for 8 years, if you're lucky enough to have one. However, what happens when that person walks away? Do you have that day-to-day relationship with your tenants? Are you looking at your competitors on a weekly basis at what their rates are? You have to be prepared for turnover, and eliminating that and going to a remote model enables you to anticipate those changes. Again, modern paradigms. We're checking our own bags, we're doing mobile ordering, we're doing mobile check-ins. There's just less interactions with employees. Don't mean to beat you over the head with this, but this is the way that we operate, and it's efficient, and we'll talk about that as well. Technology, so everyone's favorite subject, websites and SEO. I already talked about our third-party marketing partner that we use. If you don't have a website, you are missing so much opportunity to get in front of tenants, because the majority of folks nowadays, when they need storage, it's because of a life change. We all know this. They're going through a divorce, someone passed away, their kids, what? Yes, their kids are going to college, and they're probably Googling at 10 o'clock at night, storage near me. Well, if someone's doing that, your facility needs to show up. It needs to be on the top of Google, and you do not need to be competing with the REITs, because you'll never have the marketing budget that a REIT has. So having a clean, simple, easy-to-use website that people can navigate, and then implementing things like a chatbot that can answer people's questions quickly, is going to get you leased up, is going to ultimately provide you more revenue month over month. E-signs. So if you rent a unit from any of the websites that we manage, you can do it in less than 2 minutes. You give people the ability to e-sign a lease via their phone, via their tablet. Again, make it customizable to you, but make it easy to use. Less risky developments. So the model really does work for conversions. It works for ground up. Our bread and butter is acquisitions. A lot of what you guys are going after are existing facilities, but it doesn't mean it can't work for the other types. But this model is easy to phase. So if you have a facility and say it's only 90 units and you're trying to purchase land, or you have land to build on, or you're looking at the facility across the street, because you're already remotely managed facility, the transfer is that much more simple. You're not having to re-educate people constantly on what a remote model looks like, but it's easy to phase. And then if you're on the ground up or conversion side, we help you with that lease up period. So we set up your website, we help you with the marketing, we do signage before people can actually even purchase a unit, and it's just less expensive. So you're lowering your operating costs and you're increasing revenue month over month, and you're not having to handle managing a manager and expecting them to be there on a day-to-day basis. Skip one. All right, so what does unmanned mean? No on-site manager, maintenance schedule, use of technology, customer friendly. I know this is a lot of the same info, but we really want to educate people on what that means. So no on-site manager, no office. If you have office space, we typically convert it to rentable storage. No turnover, you're not having to hire and manage 2 people a year on average to run your facility because you're focused on the bigger side of your business. No dependence if that 8-year manager walks away, or if you turn the facility into remote and they don't want to be part of that, they're going to walk away regardless because they're going to be looking for a job. And no payroll expenses for that person or people managing your facility on a day-to-day. Maintenance schedule, we talked about this. So the 1099 employee, we typically budget about $600 a month for this person. What we do is we put an ad out on Indeed. We like to hire partially retired people, so people we know who want to work, they have the work ethic, and we know that they're gonna show up. We only have had to fire a handful of people, but if that's the instance, we will fire them for you. And again, they can do everything from pick up trash to turn over units. They handle the overlock process, and they handle your basic facility maintenance. Use of technology, I would say the biggest ones here are the call center, which we've already hit on, and then your website. Again, if you don't have a plan for a website and you don't want to use us, we have plenty of resources within the industry. I'm happy to recommend someone who specializes in self-storage marketing. Do not hire your niece who's a marketing student at so-and-so university, and I'm speaking from personal experience. I've been in marketing for 15 years. I'm not an SEO expert. You need to find a company that knows what they're doing so your dollars are going towards conversions. QR codes are a thing of self-storage. When we do your signage at your facility, we offer QR codes as well. So people can scan a code, go quickly to your website. Again, they can rent a unit in less than 2 minutes. We use our third-party vendor, Go Local Interactive, and they handle the SEO for you. Part of the cost, yes. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was trying to get a name.
Customer friendly. You have to make it easy to rent, easy to pay, easy to contact. We had a facility last June, now take into account it was June, so it's college season, people are moving out. It was a ground up project. We rented 83 units in 3 days. Even if you are the most experienced manager you could have, you're probably not making 83 sales in 3 days. There's a convenience factor of having a call center in place, open 12 hours a day, where people can pick up the phone or go online and rent a unit. Here are some examples of our signs that we do for you, and again, they'll be customizable for your facility. So on the right, you've got book your unit today. There's 6 easy steps, or someone can scan a QR code and go directly to your site. On the left, I love this sign. One of our colleagues came up with it. The lights are on, but no one's home. We're a remotely managed facility. You have to make it fun, but you have to communicate and over-communicate to people that there's not someone there on the day-to-day basis. Otherwise, they're going to call and be frustrated because that's the expectation. So we handle all of that communication and signage for you. Let's talk about some challenges with just self-storage in general. Cash payments. Like I mentioned earlier, we transitioned to a completely cashless model. We give people 60 days to go on auto payment. We text them. We send out letters. We send out emails. We basically say you have 60 days to convert to an automated model. And during that transition period, we're able to get most of the people, I'd say 80 to 90% on board. What does this do? It reduces late pays, and you lose virtually no one. So again, that 1 in 100 tenant who's dropping off cash when they feel it's convenient is not going to be someone that you want as a tenant regardless. Go ahead.
So for the people who did not sign up in the 60 days, what's your request?
So we'll start applying late fees after that 60-day grace period, and we'll do outbound calls, or we'll communicate to them that they're going to be feed, and then if they don't respond to that, we'll overlock their unit, and an auction will occur.
So after 60 days, you just basically do not accept any payment unless they're
Unless it's automated, correct, yes. Customer expectations, you have to train people on these procedures. So if you're taking over a facility that's been there for 10, 15 years and you've got the folks who are paying cash or you've got the folks who don't read their emails, you have to send out letters, you have to call them, you have to say, hey, this new, we do all of that for you. We're your new management company. Here's the expectations. How you log in to pay your bill. And over communication is key. Again, if you do a conversion or ground up, you're not having to deal with this because you're not having to re-educate people, but it's all about setting those customer expectations. Of course.
When you try to take over a facility, and if there's the old owners, I know you set up the new rules and stuff, but do you actually talk to each individual of the tenant?
Yes, we send out new leases. So we say, we're your management company, the owner is still whomever it is. This is how we run our businesses, this is how you do what you need to do on your end, and this is how you contact us if you have any questions.
I have a question on this, because like, a lot of us are coming from the residential world.
Sure.
We're more used to the annual leases, right? And I've never personally used the self-storage, so I don't know how it really works. A lot of people say like, oh, there's a promotion, and you can sign up for 12 years or something like that, but do you still run?
12 months.
12 months.
Yeah.
But do you still base on the every 30 days, so you are able to change your leases every single 30 days, or you wait till?
It's an annual lease, so we will prorate you if you start, not on the first of the month. And as far as just
When you take over and try to change the rules, like are you still able to simply change it within the 30 days?
yes, yeah. If someone's like, I'm gonna walk away, then we would look at when their existing lease ended and handle it from there. But again, it's about that over communication and just saying, we're only switching this. If you're not already on automated payment, get on automated payment. And then this is how you contact us from a call center perspective or from a website perspective if you need to mitigate any issues or questions. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Overlocks, there are several types of overlocks. We use Da Vinci locks. So what happens is if someone's 3 days late on their payment, we overlock the facility with a Da Vinci lock. Say they call our call center, hey, I can't get in my unit. Well, you need to pay your bill. Once they pay the bill, we text them a code to the Da Vinci lock so they can get in automatically. And again, the 1099 person will handle this part of the process. Talked a lot about the call center. I'm not going to keep going that way, but technology, good website, e-sign, gate tech. You need to have gate tech. You have to give people the ability to get into your facility after hours, especially if no one's going to be there from 9 to 5. We have recommendations for all of that as well. So again, even if you don't use us, we want to be a benefit to you and your business because of the number of years we have in the industry from an experience standpoint, and we can always recommend companies for you to work with. Spider Door, that's who we recommend. It's the cheapest version, and I don't mean cheap in a bad way, but it's the most cost efficient, and it's able to integrate with storage, which is our software that we use. Spider Door. Auctions, so we use Late to Lien and Locker Fox for all auctions. Again, we abide by all state lien laws. If someone wants to bid on a facility, they have to put about a $50 down payment on it, and they have 3 days to clean out the facility and get it out, get the stuff out, and then they make the full payment. So we handle all of the auction process for you.
What are the two sites that you mentioned?
Late to Lien, it was developed by Jeff Greenberger, one of the biggest self-storage lawyers, and Locker Fox. And we'll handle those relationships for you. We educate you on exactly what goes into that once you sign on. Challenges with the remote model: unit layout, signage, website, office space. So in order to go fully remote, you have to have good visibility, you have to have signage, you have to have space delineation if you're doing RV and boat. There are 2 instances where the model's not ideal, and I will be straight up with you guys about that. Number one, if it's a really old conversion, we had a site in New Orleans that Brett walked through about 15 times and got lost every time. That's probably not going to be the best for a remote model. because your tenants are going to be calling us or you constantly saying, I don't know how to navigate it. Even if there's ample signage, people need convenience. They need an easy way to get to their unit when they need it. And so that's probably not going to be the best mix of having a fully remote facility. The second is if, why am I totally blanking? Oh my gosh. No.
Two reasons.
No, I know, and I'm totally blanking on the company, and this is so embarrassing. U-Haul. If U-Haul is a huge portion of your business, say you're making about $80,000, which is really rare in U-Haul rentals a year, you're probably not going to want to go fully remote because you need someone there Friday and Saturday, the busiest days, to handle those exchange of vehicles. Again, we are always happy to put pro formas together for you. So if you find a site or a facility you're interested in and you're like, hey, I just want to know if my this management model could work, we do that for you free of charge. We're always happy to look at something from a high level and put that together and see if the management model will work. We're very straightforward about that.
Do you manage facilities with that, with like U-Haul already in place?
A couple of them have it. It's a very small portion of their business, so it works. But I would say 98% of our facilities don't have a U-Haul component.
So in that case, you would know the difference in continued analysis, right? So we'll do analysis.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll be able to come back and say, out of that analysis, we fully managed or
Yes.
or you just need a hybrid.
You need a hybrid.
You need whatever, but here's the reasons why we came with this.
Yes, here's how we came to this conclusion. Also, this is what the facility revenue would look like with our model at a 3-month period, at a 6-month period, and at a year period.
It's an objective report.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Website, we talked a lot about this. Modern, simple, easy to use, good SEO is key. Office space, again, if there's office space at the existing site and you go fully remote, we usually change that to rentable space. So again, a little more profit for you month over month. Some advantages, so you do not have that payroll expense, you don't have office expenses, you're not having to put snacks in the office or printer paper. Again, everything's done via technology, and you're not having to deal with the turnover of paying someone for a couple of months and then them walking away and you being back to square one. Increased revenue, so it's amazing what conversations differ when you do them via the phone as opposed to in person. Again, if you own a facility, you've probably experienced this. It's like any kind of sales. Someone could come in and say, this happened to me, I can't pay my bill this month. Typically on the phone, you're easily able to say, well, I'm sorry, this is our policy. Maybe we'll give you, a 2-day grace period, but we expect the payment on X. And so this decreases waive fees, decreases partial payments, increases tenant insurance. We require all tenants to have insurance, if not show proof. You get a 50% split of that revenue, so that is part of our deal as well. And then it increases auto payment. And then unfortunately, theft occurs, especially if you're a facility that takes cash. So you have to take that into consideration. So we do a scale, so 0 to 750 plus, and how we price is per number of units per facility. I would say our sweet spot is about 350 to 450 on the acquisition side, units. But we have people with 99, we have people with 750. If you have 50 units, you're probably not going to be making the returns right away going the fully remote model if you're managing the facility yourself. But again, that's where it's scalable, that if you have one facility and you're looking to scale or buy annex facilities, this is where this could come into play and ultimately give you more revenue.
So it's based on units, not square footage?
Not square footage, nope. And we don't increase like percent of that. Your 0 to 250 is one cost, 250 to 500 is one cost. My contact information is on those sheets, and I can email you a full breakdown. Call center hours, ease of interaction, well-trained personnel, and you're not dependent on office staff. Again, we've been through all this, but really having a call center in place that is open for that amount of hours a day gives you the ability to walk away and know that sales are occurring. Here's a case study. This was a site that some of our team bought together a while back. It was in Griffin, Georgia. They bought it for $1.7 million. They removed the on-site manager, transitioned to cashless, added signage and technology, added some portable units, increased tenant insurance, increased auto payment, raised street rates, which is critical. Again, if you've got a facility and they don't even have a website, the amount of money that they're missing out on, that you could potentially be missing out on, is huge. And in 2 years later, it appraised for $3.9 million by doing these simple changes and taking over the books and taking over the management, removing the on-site manager.
Was this during the COVID 2 years period?
This was, I believe this was bought in 2018, so it was right before. Ooh. Here is a site in Tennessee, really rural part of Tennessee. When Brett showed up to take over the facility, the manager didn't know she was getting fired, which is never a good situation. You have to communicate that. Her husband was the chief of police and she said, if you ever call the police, no one's showing up. Well, that didn't happen. They implemented all the same changes, and in less than 18 months, it appraised for $4.2 million.
What's your revenue, like an increase on that? Like, what's your forced appreciation?
For a specific site,
Yeah,
or?
so yesterday we talked about like when Kevin took over a facility, the increase of a minimum 50%. Do you guys have?
So the revenue management team would work with you on that. So they would do the pro formas as a starting point, and then they would see what the street rates are and what the competition within a 3-mile radius is, and then they would tell you that percentage kind of quarter over quarter.
So Tessa, are we able to communicate with your team and strategize through some of these?
Absolutely. Yeah, so the next step would be you could email me after this, and then I'm happy to send you a pricing sheet, or we could set up a call. I could always bring in Brett. Again, he was born into this industry. Bob has 25 years of experience. So whether it's from a feasibility standpoint or a management standpoint, again, if you don't use us, that's fine. We want you to be set up for success, and we can provide you those resources and that information.
On the previous slide,
Sure.
It was implemented changes.
Yep, those same changes that we talked about. So,
But does it have paid $250, so you invested $250?
that was for the first one, sorry. This is for
So how much did you invest to get to 4.2?
1.4, they bought it for 1.4.
How much of the changes cost you to get to 4.2?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, it was, again, the removal of the on-site manager, the technology component, the website and SEO. So depending on the size, it could be $2,600 a month or it could be $3,600 a month, but you're removing that on-site employee. I'm happy to get you those numbers. Go ahead.
How early in the process is a new owner engaging in management company?
Sure. We have people call us when they're looking at dirt. And their 10-year plan is to buy 5 facilities at 150 units of pop. And then we've got people who are like, I'm closing in 30 days and I need a management solution. I would say more people fall on that side. We just need a heads up. You could call us or email us and introduce ourselves. Hey, we're looking at this site in Georgia. It's about a 90-day turnaround. We're getting approved for financing. We're considering remote management. Can you take a look at this for us? And then we need 45 days for onboarding. So once you sign a contract during that 45-day period, we'll get you set up on the technology side of things, we'll get your website going, and then we'll send the site coordinator to your site and give them the ability to make sure that everything's set up from a signage and tech point of view.
Do you charge a fee to look at it in case?
No, pro formas are free. Yep.
Do anything in security?
No, we're a one-stop shop, so the only ancillary service we offer is that bookkeeping, but nothing on this. We don't watch your security tapes. We always recommend you have security, proper lighting, etc. We also notify the local police and fire department when we take over that it's going to be a remotely managed facility, because even if you have someone there on site, break-ins occur after hours. So we let people know that there's no one going to be there on the day-to-day. Go ahead.
So you're unmanned, and you have, so your primary contact on an ongoing basis is the site coordinator?
site coordinator, and you have a client relations representative. And they're gonna work with you on the marketing side of things. They're gonna work with you on the revenue management side of things. You can meet with them. Most people meet with them monthly, but if it's weekly is more convenient, especially as you're kind of transitioning, we're happy to do that.
So I come from multifamily.
Sure.
So this is equivalent to like a regional manager.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So how many facilities typically that type of coordinator?
10 to 15, depending on the region. So, we've got like 1 or 2 facilities up north. The site coordinator for that is probably working Virginia up. But then in Texas, we have 12. So we've got 1 site coordinator for Texas.
Where are you located and where do you manage?
We're nationwide. Yep, we're nationwide. And the majority of our employees are in the Southeast, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, but we manage nationwide.
Where are you based?
Myself, Wilmington, North Carolina. No, again, we're all remote. Brett is in Nashville, who started the company, and then Bob and some folks are in Alabama.
All your call center people are US?
They are not. They were originally. We had 60 employees. We went through a lot of trial and error on that. And what we did is we have a 2-tier system. We only have 30 employees now. About 20 of them are outsourced. And then we have 10 managers. So if someone calls and they have to answer a basic question, they talk to that tier 1. If someone calls and they're very upset, or say someone leaves a horrible Google review, a manager is going to get on the phone and talk to that person, and we guarantee that. So those people are in-house Copper employees that also train that tier 1 and manage that tier 1 group.
Tier 1, where are they?
Philippines.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead.
Revenue management?
I'm sorry.
For revenue management?
Yeah.
Do you guys use the platform or is it like?
Yeah, we use StoreQuest, I believe, and Radius Plus, and they'll walk through all of that data with you as well. Revenue management. So nothing's changed. You're still renting units and collecting money. You're just not employing a full-time employee to sit at a desk and hope that they rent 1 unit a day. And not all managers, there's managers that do a phenomenal job. And it's not a one-size-fits-all either. I would say the people that this doesn't work for are the people who want complete control of every aspect of their business. And it doesn't mean you don't want that if you go the remote way. It's just getting comfortable with not having someone there on the day-to-day and having that technology component. So we're always happy to have a conversation and look at a facility and see if it's the right fit for you.
So what is your experience as far as your customers go? What is their biggest complaint to you as far as what they want you to improve on?
Yeah, I would say communication, and that's something we've learned and we've definitely gotten better at. Again, some owners are like, okay, you've got it. We've done 15 facilities with you. I don't need to talk to you unless it's quarterly. And some people want to call us every day, and we're picking up the phone. There's not a lot of companies where the owner of the company will pick up his phone at 10 o'clock on a Friday night. So we've learned communication and providing that data on both the marketing, the revenue management, and the storage side of things. So how many units are getting rented month over month, again, your conversion rates, your click-through rates. And that has been a complaint of sorts, but we are working towards being over-communicating to owners so that they feel more comfortable because this is a fully remote managed facility. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I walked in a little
No, you're
bit
fine.
late, but do you guys, how do you deal with like the maintenance and like somebody just moves out in the middle of the night, and how do you find that out?
Yeah, so we have a 1099 employee that we hire, train, and manage that will walk your site at least 1 time a week. If you want them to go there more frequently, more than fine. If someone moves out in the middle of the night, it's probably going to be reported the next day by a tenant, most likely, and we'll get that 1099 employee there as soon as possible to clean out the unit and make sure that it's rentable, so that your site can have it up and ready to be rented.
So, like, the owners really don't have to worry, you always have somebody.
We always have, yep. We are your eyes and ears of your facility. You have access to all the information. You have access to make changes. You have access not to accept revenue management, suggestions. But we're here to say we're gonna provide you with X, and this is the expectation of that 1099 employee, and they have to provide us with Y to make sure that they're doing their job efficiently and effectively. It depends. Sometimes they have someone that they want to use, and that's totally fine. We just have to interview them and say, here's our expectations, here's our checklist.
Just a little extra question. So that employee, like, you have like a set amount of hours that they go on the property, and then if you need additional, say like, well, you have to clean out a unit or whatever, then there's a per hour rate?
Yeah, so we budget about $600 a month for that employee to go to your site 1 day a week for, I would say, 4-ish hours. Again, if you want them to go more frequently, you want them to be there more frequently, we don't really recommend more than 3 times a week, and that's typically for a larger facility. You would then budget more kind of month over month for them. But to do the basic facility maintenance and to go 1 time a week, we budget $600 for them.
Are they enough where they could actually like fix a door?
Yeah, you can set those expectations. So when we're hiring someone, we say, you might have to put in rat traps. You might have to fix a light. You might have to fix a jammed door. If we have to call a vendor in place, then we have that communication with vendors and we provide you quotes. So you can approve those quotes before any serious work is done.
Because I come from residential, so one of my thoughts was bed bugs in a unit, or like you said, rats, vermin. So, because you can't go in the units, right? They could spray the outside or take care of it. So
it depends. If it's a frequent problem, I believe we can go in the units. I'm happy to double check, but I had a guy call me who he had an old conversion, so it wasn't the right fit for us. And he was like, "Do you guys have a lot of problem with rats?" And I said, "Not necessarily." He had rats in almost every unit. So I mean, aside from getting an exterminator, which he didn't want to pay for, I brought that to Brett and was like, what would we do in this situation? And he said we would set up rat traps in all of them and continue it, as frequently as needed until you got rid of the problem. He just didn't want to deal with it. But, I can double check on in terms of going into a unit, but if it's a serious issue, we would probably be able to do that as the employee.
As a percentage of revenue, how much do owners budget to have a company like yours manage everything?
So again, because we're priced per number of units, to give you an example, 0 to 250, you're budgeting about $2,600 a month for our services. And it goes up from there.
Is that 1099 whose employee?
Yours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that $600 is part of that $2,600 monthly fee.
For the case study in the Griffin, Georgia, I was just trying to run the basic numbers in my head. Are they in that sweet spot at least of 350? Because we saw 1.7 divided by 350, they're talking about like $4,000 per unit. And if we're talking about the 10 by 10, 10 by 20,
Sure.
well, they buy it at like $40 or less per square foot. That's like crazy.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm happy to get more info about those case studies. I think it was over 250, but it was on the smaller side of 250.
Is there like any minimum like that's charged between 600 or?
No, again, if you have 50 units, the return is probably not going to be as great as if you have 250, obviously, because you're paying that monthly expense, but there's no minimum. People come to us, they call us, I have 90 units, and then I'm looking to purchase this facility down the street that has 25 units. What can we do there? If they're in with a certain mile radius, sometimes we can combine fees. It just really depends on how close together the facilities are.
Asking you the next couple of years to be able to get to.
Yes. 2250 for 250 to 500, 500 to 7. I can email you. Happy to email you. 500 to 700 is 3,500, I believe, as a base. You need to have workers' comp on that 1099 employee. Yes.
Some of the software you require to use like storage
Yes.
and things, do you have an idea what that adds to the monthly
Yeah, so 0 to 250, or excuse me, 0 to 100 storage is going to be 127. I think 100 to 200. Theirs is a little different in terms of tiers. Is like 149. It's not significant. And then the marketing fee is for Go Local Interactive is $380 month over month.
That's per location?
Per location, correct. Again, if they're very close in proximity, we can usually discount the second location by half. But if you've got one here and one across the country or one across the state, it's going to be $380 per month because the SEO and the website maintenance of both of those facilities, we take that into account. The only time we recommend additional ads or search ads and PPC and all that is if it's a very saturated market. Then we say maybe you should budget $200 to $300 more this month, but we wouldn't make any of those changes without getting your approval.
Okay. So we've heard about easy storage solution software. That doesn't work with working with you.
No, we use storage.
Okay.
Yep. And storage is a component of Storable, which essentially owns everything. Like they're one of those companies that just own most of the stuff, most of the tech, and that's why we chose it because it was integrated with so much else.
Storable owns SiteLink and
SiteLink, yep.
If we have SiteLink, you would agree with that.
We would convert you to storage. We used to use SiteLink, but we moved over. Go ahead.
We're paying that fee, or you're paying that fee?
That would be part of the transition fee. So there's a $4,500 onboarding fee.
So my question is the monthly fee?
Oh, you're paying that monthly fee for storage. Yes.
So just to clarify, if it's 250 units, it's roughly 2,600,
Roughly, yes.
and 350 for SEO.
No, 380 is part of that 2,600. Yes. So, nope, that's part of it too. Sorry, 1,500 base. Say you're at 250. 1,500 base. 380 for marketing, SEO. It'd be like 149 for storage, and then 600 for that boots on the ground employee. That's where I get the 2,600 mark.
We all in the 26. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Sorry if that wasn't clear. I know, and the way when you look at it on paper, it makes a lot more sense. Absolutely.
Is all this pricing somewhere on your website?
Yeah, at a high level, it's there broken down by number of units. The marketing and the storage is not included on what you see on the website, but I can, if you take my flyer and email me, happy to share our pricing with whoever needs it. To storage, yeah, we do. I mean, that will be part of a lot of the transition process, but we want everyone on the technology. Yeah. And like I mentioned in the beginning, we are the only SBA-approved fully remote third-party management company. So banks like Live Oak have already underwritten our model in a lot of their deals. Again, you don't have to use Live Oak, you don't have to use us, but if that's the path that you're looking at, they will know how to underwrite that.
Sorry for this question, but what does the SBA approved mean? Like why a management company would need to be SBA?
It just helps with the overall process because Live Oak is a cash flow lender. So with the remote model, traditionally you're removing that payroll cost and you're showing that you're going to ultimately have more cash flow with a remote model. And that's how they incorporate it into their underwriting. So if you go the SBA route for financing, it's nice to have approved companies within your business plan that they know that the model will work. Does that make sense?
If I could, when we did the SBA loan for some other stuff, you have to prove who your management structure is, how you're actually going to do business.
Yes.
So if you're not doing it with your people, who's going to do it?
And how you're going to increase revenue. So cutting that payroll cost right off the bat, you're increasing revenue in a lot of ways, and they look at that from a cash flow standpoint.
How do you see test the part of rural, so we handle Texas, but people in rural communities, as we talked about class, and then after you talked about it, want to walk in and see units. How has that affected the table rural?
Sure. I think the biggest piece of that is over communication, right? Because you have tenants who have been there for 5 years and you have tenants who have been there for 5 days. If you don't set those expectations of how a remotely managed facility works, there's going to be frustration. There's always frustration regardless, but I would say in super rural markets, depending on, again, if it's a ground up project and you're not having to re-educate people, or if it's an acquisition and we're coming in, you're still the owner, but we handle that communication for you, and we want the tenants to be comfortable. It's not as scary as it seems. I think a lot of owners are reluctant because they're like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose half of my tenants because they're used to seeing me or they're used to seeing Sally sitting at the desk. Again, just communicating with them on what this transition looks like, we really don't see that many people walk away. What else?
You said you
I don't own storage. I'm not there yet in my life, but I hope to be there someday.
2 questions. I think you said this started in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got basically 3 years of data behind you. So kind of a little shorter history, but you're not seeing any trends that would be, anything problematic in terms of the remote.
No, I mean, and I'm not the numbers person, but if and when a recession happens, you're going to be looking for ways to cut costs regardless. If you trust the tech and trust the people in place, and you trust a company that has, Terry, Brett, Tana, myself, 90 years of self-storage experience across the board, that's what you're putting your trust in, and you're cutting that expense out of your payroll.
Well, and the other question, I was in technology for so many years and was in the kiosk business for a long time. Do you have problems with vandalism in the kiosk, maintenance of the kiosk, support?
We actually don't recommend kiosks. We'll be very blunt about that because no one's technically going into an office to run a unit because they're doing it online or calling in. Brett has some harsh words about kiosks. I'm a little bit indifferent. If it's already in your facility, we don't say you have to remove it, but a lot of people end up removing it because they don't want to pay that monthly cost.
Well, that's where I was going with that.
Right.
You've got some device you've got to maintain.
Right.
Get vandalized.
So a lot of people come to us and say, I've had a kiosk for 5 years, 20% of my people use it or 10% of my people use it. And we say, okay, you can keep it going for a few months, but we're probably going to say in a few months you can shut it off.
So they just come up and use it with phone then, basically?
Yep, they're scanning a QR code or they're typing in the website directly. To get into in and out of the, to get on the website, that's how they're doing it. But they'll be texted a gate code or a code to the facility, and that's how they'll access their unit.
Is it possible to share how many units you are managing per region, per city, per state?
We have that data. If you want to email me, I'm happy to provide that to you. We're in about 25 states. And again, some have way more, Texas, some have 1, Connecticut. So we're growing throughout the U.S.
How much is your onboard fee?
$4,500. One time.
In addition to the monthly?
And then the monthly starts. Yep.
Regardless of the size of the facility?
Regardless, $4,500. We require a 1-year contract. If you want to walk away from us, then after that 1 year, you're free to go.
So it's month to month after 1 year?
No, it's annual. So then you would sign on for an additional year.
So if you had to break that?
If you had to break that, it's.
I know some companies, they're like, it's $1,500 no matter what, and they've got a lot of third day umbrellas, which are also with the accident.
Sure, I can get you that info. It's in our contract.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm also happy to send people sample contracts. We are very transparent.
Are the contracts assumable? Let's say you do this, you set it up, and then you sell the facility to the new owner take it, or is that considered a new contract to you?
We would, I believe they can just take it. Yeah, depending on when that happens within your contract. Yeah. But most people hang on to facilities 2 to 3 years before they're selling.
Yes.
Yes.
Is Catherine and Silver using you guys for their unmanned facilities right now?
No. Scott has 1 in the works, but Catherine is not. Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
I'm not opposed to using them, by the way. It's not an issue. I just have my own staff.
Yeah.
And it's not. And Okay, and we had this conversation. We're not really competitors. What I do is slightly different from what she does.
Just wanted to know.
Is there a performance component to the fee, like based on physical and economic occupancy, or is the fee straight coming, has to be paid by the owner?
The fee is set. We don't do a percentage increase, you know.
Is there a performance, like, if the units are not?
Oh, there's a 1% performance fee, and that's after 6 months. And I have all the information on that as well, if you need it.
Okay.
So it's 1% of so based off your pro forma, if you hit that mark at 6 months, we take 1% of that revenue. And if you don't hit it, we don't take a percentage.
Even if you hit it,
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
you have to hit that performance.
Yes. With using our management model.
1% of the delta you need from what it would have been?
Yes.
Are we setting that with you?
Yes. Yep, based off your pro formas.
And then the 1% is forever?
Yes. It's an incentive for us to make sure that you're up to par with rates, marketing, you're, as occupied as you can be.
Is there a ceiling? So sometimes I know with your parties, they go up to 6% or 5%.
It's just 1% across the board. That's what we've decided, and it hasn't changed.
But you're not like, hey, next year we're going to try to hit those targets and not 1%.
No.
And you change the pro forma as it goes?
Yes. So once you're at your 6 months, we'll say, okay, great, you're leased up, to X, and you're doing this much revenue. Here's what we project for the next 6 months to get you to that year mark.
We think we can get you 10,000 more, and if you get 5,000, you get 1% of 5,000.
Exactly.
Well, no, above, whatever above.
Whatever above that.
So I know this is part of that. So what is your accountability? Is there an accountability measure that you guys can every 6 months review? Okay, this is what we've done, this is how we're basically.
We work with you monthly. So we're not just going to set it and leave it. That's part of the revenue management team. So they're going to say you're performing this way for this month, or say you haven't had as many online rentals as we projected. What's happening in the market, and how do we get you there? What are you spending in marketing? Do we need to increase that? Do we need to stay as is? So we work with you.
So it's a facility, it's per facility.
Yes, per facility. Yep. One more question, I think we got to wrap up.
How often do you do a rate adjustment?
I'm sorry? Rate adjustments as needed. Again, if it needs to happen quarterly or monthly, we're going to work with you on that monthly basis to get you. Our revenue management team. Yep.
How often do they check?
Weekly. That's their day in and day out job. Yep.
All right, thank you.
Awesome.
Do you build in the old, sorry, but do you build like increases in, 10 more minutes, you're going to 600, you raise your price every year?
Typically a little, depending on what's happening, but as long as I've been there, it's been what it is, and that would be, we raised fees, I should say, in September, so any new fees wouldn't be raised until September 2023, if we decided to do it at the 1 year mark. All right. No, you're good. I think we're good. I know that was a lot of info. I know that management is a huge component of your business. If I didn't answer anything as clearly, I apologize. I've been up for 12 hours. But email me. I'll get your questions answered. I'll get you pricing, and we're good to go. Oh, I'm sorry? It's on the sheet on your table. Yep. Oh, okay. And there it is again. Go ahead.
What should we ask you that we haven't?
That's a great question. I kind of touched on this earlier, but when is this not the right fit for an owner? And we're not one size fits all. So if you want to know every component of your business, you want to know how your SEO is doing, you want to handle the auction process, we're probably not going to be the right fit for you unless you start to scale and you're saying, I don't want to handle this. I don't want to take tenant calls. I don't want to deal with, people and the auction process. I would say you have to think about that. When you're underwriting, when you're looking at deals, what's their current management model? Is it working? Have they had the same employee for 10 years? Does everyone love him or her? maybe don't go remote right away. So I think just having those conversations with yourself and understanding what the property is doing, and if remote makes sense is something that people don't always ask themselves, and they're like, oh, this will work automatically, but you have to have trust in us to do what we're supposed to do behind the scenes.
Why do you not allow your clients to use other softwares?
You know, that's a Brett question. Because of Storable and just Storage's capabilities to integrate with so many other things, that's the path we took. If you don't want to use Storage, again, we're not going to be offended, and we're not going to tell you how to run your business.
So you're just confirming, so you're taking half of our insurance profit,
And you get 50%.
but you're, even if we have it in place already,
Yes.
so I have it in place for 600 units, and then you're taking that.
Yes, we require you to use we use Bader, which is also a Storable product.
I use Vader right now, saying you're taking.
Yes, we're
half.
taking half.
Okay, I like how you directed that every time, just want to make sure.
No, I'm,
Okay, and then the tenants start to finish, so somebody calls in, your people are trained start to finish,
Yeah.
full rental.
Sure.
And if we decide we want to test it, do you give us the ability to call in?
Absolutely.
So you can hear like
Yep.
how that cycle goes?
I'll send you a list of facilities. I'll send you our website. You can pick the facility. It doesn't have to be someone who, sings our praises. You can call in, test it. We have people do that all the time.
And then what's the average wait time for somebody when they call into the call center?
Oh gosh, it depends. I mean, I think we get 26,000 calls a month, but we have decreased wait time. The average call is about 7 minutes. We're trying to get it down to 5 minutes. And I wouldn't say the wait is very often because we have a full staff those 12 hours. So that's all that they're doing. They're not doing website stuff. They're not doing marketing. They're not doing sales. That is their job.
And is that something that you would have, that average wait time?
Something we would want to improve.
No, that you would have. If I emailed you, is that something that you might have?
Oh yeah, I can get those stats pulled. Absolutely.
You're in the Philippines, you said?
Yes.
Do you have customer data? I mean, so many call centers are in the Philippines.
No, I get it.
User experience typically is not very good.
So the company is called Nitro. We tested them for months before we made the transition. What we found is that our copper employees that were all US, all in-house, were doing half the work of these people in the Philippines, and we decided to trust them and went with it, and it's been successful. We've lowered the amount of time on the phone. We have the data to back that up. So again, you are more than welcome to call any of the sites and experience that for yourself.
You say the 20 are in the Philippines and then
10 are in-house managers, yes. Yep.
And did you say before with regard to the tenant leases, did you say those are also annual?
We send out new leases when we take over. So it would be, yes. So it would be when we take over, we're going to send out the lease to all of your tenants, and then, well, it would be prorated for when they became a tenant of yours.
But they're not month-to-month leases?
No.
Really? And how does that work? Meaning, isn't that against the model of self-storage?
I think you're talking about two different things.
I mean, can we clarify? Because I'm talking about if Tom and Sally Smith rent a unit.
Sure.
They're renting on a month-to-month basis.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you are correct. Then it would have to be month to month, because if they walked away after a month, then you are correct. Their lease would be terminated. I'm sorry.
To clarify that, if somebody had a year lease from the prior owner, you would honor that until
Yes.
it ended, and then they would go to month on your.
Yes, correct. We're not going to, kick anyone out, as long as they're not paying cash.
$20 a month, that's what it says, okay, we'll do it, right?
Yep. And on our website, we have case studies, we have webinars, we have articles. So if you need any more information, please look at the site and reach out, and we're always happy to have a conversation.
Do you help handle technology implications, like so putting in the gates and things like that?
We can find you vendors to do that in your area and initiate those conversations and provide you quotes. So you would sign off on it, but we can do that. The site coordinator would work with you to do that.
And then in your experience, have you ever had to update an automated gate? Maybe it was outdated or?
Not in my experience. I haven't heard that, but I'm sure it occurs. So, as long as everything's functioning, if something stops working, we're gonna try to, fix it within a week's time to make sure that the tenants are taken care of and they can get in and out, or if not shorter.
So would that also include security, like security drones the same way? Or
If you need vendors, we can find you vendors.
what about solar?
I mean, we,
Does that apply to you or does it not?
not really. If you have solar panels on your sites, you know, that's more from a financing standpoint, I feel like, but it doesn't apply to the management model. Yeah.
When you talk about the SEO and the marketing that you do, can you be specific about the sites that you make sure that your clients are actually on, the listings that are?
Yeah, Google, Bing, and it's Go Local Interactive doing that SEO and marketing. So they're doing localized SEO. So when they type your about page, it's all about your facility, your 3-mile radius, your region, what's the climate like? You know, if anyone were to Google you, they'd get that information. So again, you're not competing with those REITs, and they handle all of that for you.
What type of reporting is presented?
Yeah, so Go Local has its own reports that you'll receive month over month, and then storage reports as well. And your client relations rep will walk through all of that data with you on a month-to-month basis.
So your clients are required to use your tenant insurance, which is Bader. Are they also required to utilize your merchant service provider?
Yes.
Okay.
What's the rate for that?
Oh gosh. I have it in my head on the sales sheet. I think it's 10 cents. I can, per transaction.
Okay, so it's got to be a percentage.
So storage has a percentage plus 10 cents per transaction.
Thank you.
Okay, it's around 2.19, depending on what type of credit card they pay with, excuse me. American Express charges 2.99. Discover's can be a little bit higher, depending on what they decide to do this month.
Just to clarify, the insurance up, Southeast attendant insurance. So obviously you got the insurance provider, whatever your cut, whatever the storage unit's cut of that insurance is. If it was $100 a month for that insurance product. To the storage unit, you're taking half of that.
Yes.
Half a gross or net?
Net. Total.
So gross.
Gross, thank you.
How long does it take to do a transition?
45 days.
45 days?
We've done quicker, but we like to allot for 45 days.
I like that. Because to be clear, transitions don't happen in 24 hours.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes in behind it. All right, thank you guys.
Okay, don't get down. Don't get down, don't leave. Wait for me, I got little legs. You all have heard that, right? Okay, Copper Management is a great company. Who here knows who Bob Copper is? Wow, most of you don't know who Bob Copper is. Okay, so Brett Copper actually started the management side of copper storage, is basically what I'm going to call it. Bob Copper does feasibility studies and desktop studies on a national level. He's amazing. Oh, and he's super nice, just so you know. But what I like about Copper Management is the way that they actually operate your facility. So there's a lot of operational questions that I feel like you guys didn't ask. Like, storage does integrate with gate software, but specifically which ones? What if you buy a property and you have, what's the latest one that I had that was just crap? But guess what? Storage integrated with it. Storage and SiteLink are two of the most integratable softwares out there. Legit. Okay, I have some questions. Specifically, what is the percentage of delinquency averaged by Copper Management?
On the tenant side, or?
On the tenant side.
Meaning late payments,
Yep.
let's see. I don't know off the top of my head, but because we're doing this outbound calls, we're trying to get ahead of it. Just like Val said, she's having someone call, hey, your payment's due.
Perfect. The national average that you want to keep yourself under is 10%. You want to be less than 10% delinquent customers. I operate under 5%. And if my manager even creeps up to 5.1%, I'm on the phone with them. What's going on? Why haven't these units been cleared out? Why haven't they been sold at auction? And you guys handle the auctions, correct? Online?
Yes, through Lead to Lean and Box.
There's also 2 other companies out there. The one I like to use is storageauctions.com.
How long does that process take?
Depends on what state you're in, and we can actually talk a little bit about that. So I told you I operate in 36 states, okay? They're all very similar with some nuances. However, most of the states look like if I was due yesterday and I didn't pay, I'm getting a late notice today. That's day 1. Then there's 7 to 10 days, depending on your preference, for when the customer gets locked out and charged a late fee. By the way, in most states, that late fee can be $20 or 20% of the rent, and that's it. So be careful on that. Whichever's higher, usually is what the law states. At 31 days, we start pre-lien. That means they get a letter that says on the 46th day that you haven't paid, I'm going to cut your lock and inventory your unit and put it online for auction. At 61 days, you're sold. I am a stickler for making sure that you're paying attention to the lien laws of your state. If it's telling you that you have to circulate the ad in a newspaper, a local newspaper, you better have it printed. A lot of them have gone to electronic. So you can do electronic notification now, which is amazing. I love electronic notifications. Anytime I see that, I get excited. I'm like, thank God. Because first of all, to print in the paper is extremely expensive. And how many of you actually still read a physical newspaper? Exactly. So, okay, we put it in that newspaper like your lien law told us to, but nobody saw it. So really, you just negated your own point. But that's what a lien schedule generally looks like. And I am not someone who will say, and I'm sure Copper does this too, we have heard every story in the book. I had one lady who told me for 3 months straight that her mom died twice. I was like, okay, so your mom died. I said, let me look at your notes. Okay, so your mom died in February and in April. So her mom died in February. She got evicted from her house in March, and then her mom died again in April. I've had people tell me they were diagnosed with cancer. May sound mean, but I say I completely understand. I will credit you for a couple months' rent if you'll send me proof. I don't want somebody to struggle like that. If you've been diagnosed with terminal cancer, I'll help you out. Of course I will. That's a life change. That's a big life change. And I'm not so mean that I don't understand that. If you're diagnosed with terminal cancer, guess what? You're going to have a lot of bills, right? Can't afford? I say, great. So I'm going to make sure that you don't have to pay your rent for the next 3 months, but I am going to have you to go ahead to come and get your stuff within that time. That way it's all taken care of, and you don't have to worry about it. And in some cases, I've actually helped them move their stuff just to make sure that they were taken care of. Okay, what other questions do you have about the management itself? Doesn't have to be specifically for copper storage, but a lot of you, I don't know that you've actually thought about how to operate the facility. Yes, you can hire call centers. Yes, you can do all of that. But what if you're planning on semi-self-managing? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the copper management, I wanted to ask you guys take care of the liens, right? I don't pay. How do we trigger that? Just send a
Take care of the what? I'm sorry.
How do we trigger for you to say, or you already know these people didn't pay and it just automatically?
Yes, it would be in their system, in the software. So we would have that data and say they owe us a payment in 3 days, and those outbound calls would occur. We take care of that. You do not have to take care of that.
You just say, oh, this guy didn't pay, he's going to go to auction on this day.
You're right. So this guy's 5 days past due. That's when we overlock the facility, and then it would go to auction in X amount of days unless they call and pay the late fees and get the overlock off.
So the overlock is the 1099 employee.
He would be, yeah, he or she would be overlocking the site.
Well, the other question I had on the 1099 employee, people want to come in and the gate doesn't work, and they call.
They call our call center. And they say, I'm at so-and-so facility, the gate's not opening, I tried this code. They would probably say, try this code. If it's a technical issue, then we would get someone on site within a day to fix, to work with the vendors to fix it.
It's not the 1099 employee that goes out and looks.
It would be that person, if they're the closest and the person that can get there the fastest, it would be that person to meet the vendor to fix the gate.
Yeah, just so you guys know, when we talk about these 1099 employees, we call them boots on the ground people. They're not like on call 24/7. So if the gate breaks down and somebody can't get in, not because they're late and locked out of the gate, but legit, the gate's not working, we simply let them know. No problem, thank you for letting us know. We'll get a service tech out there as soon as possible, and we'll let you know when we can get it open.
Why don't we have a hissy fit over that?
They can have a hissy fit all day. It's things break down.
Does that happen very often?
No, not really. No. Yes, sir.
Is there a waiver or some other document that a tenant can sign that give up their, you call it rights, to where you don't have to go through that entire leave process?
Heck yes. I love it when they do that. I've had several tenants do that where they're just like, look, I can't pay my bill. I don't even want the stuff that's in there. I always tell, great, can you sign this release form for me so that I can go ahead and remove the contents of the unit and get it rented out, send it over to them, they send it back, great, we're done. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the question is on the management. What about landscaping, snow removal?
That could be your 1099 employee too, if that is.
Or additional 1099, or like if you're hiring out a service, I mean, this guy.
Yeah, either or, but if you want that person to take care of those duties, we would walk through that during the hiring process and say, are you capable of doing this? You know, you have the equipment, this is gonna be part of your weekly maintenance.
Usually, usually it isn't that one person, right? I mean,
Right.
the manager's gonna say, that's great, but I've gotta have, Joe Blow over here that's gonna come in here and do the maintenance, clean everything. And then maybe another company that's gonna do the snow removal, because God forbid, that's the person.
Sure, but if you wanna pay for that and, or.
So that's gonna be additional beyond that, so any vendors that we have that needs to take care of. Is additional above and beyond your 1099?
Yeah, if you don't want that person to handle it for you, or they can't.
Well, I mean,
If
they're
it's a
semi-retired, I mean, and they're only gonna do so much.
Not
right?
always, and again, if you want that person to go more frequently and handle those duties for you, you would pay them more, depending on what that budget looks like, but if that's part of what your facility needs to be functioning on a week-to-week basis, or you want the landscaping, then we say, are you open to doing this type of work? If not, you would have to employ someone.
So that would be, okay, all right.
But again, Copper Management will get the quotes for you. So if you identify that there's a need for a snowplow removal, or that the boots on the ground person doesn't have the bandwidth or isn't capable, you might have a lot of grass going on, then they'll get you the quotes, at least 3, from local people who could do it for you. And then, so you'll sign off on it, and then Copper Management, their boots on the ground person, will make sure the work's done. Yes, ma'am.
I have a more generic question, general question, sorry about that. Like, so what I was thinking about purchasing is definitely not gonna fit into like a property management to justify all the fees and stuff. So most of likely gonna do like I hire someone else to manage a facility, right? Like you have your managers and stuff. So my general question is like, how, like, it always kind of scared me a little bit on the management side. That's why I pulled out of a contract already and I came to this like academy was, I'm not only dealing with people, I'm dealing with almost a class C type of people, the people who got evicted and or I'm not, at least for myself, like I'm not trying to purchase in the nicest like buildings in the nicest neighborhood, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so like I'm scared dealing with those people, but how did you find the people who are not scared to deal with those people?
Oh, yeah, they got to have some grit. Most of my managers carry. I don't even know what to tell you about that one. They got some grit, all right. You have no idea what we've been through on properties, and most of the time not even at our own fault. It's not even that the tenants are necessarily mad at us for anything that we have or haven't done at that point. People don't like change. They don't even have to be the type of people that were evicted from their house. People don't like change. People like same thing every time, all the time.
Yes, so is there from your like a leadership perspective, there's any like a tricks or tips you can give, like how to find the people who have the grit, and how, like I can foresee an employee quitting on me every single 3 months, and that's what I have for myself. Like,
Is that hard to work with, Ming? Why are your employees quitting every 3 months?
exaggeration, but a lot of those people you require the physical location dealing with shit. Like no one wants to deal with shit.
Look, I know Copper deals with it. I have dealt with it in the past where I told you, Granite City, I hired a lady and 3 days later she ghosted me. I was like, shit. Looks like I'm running it today. I mean, it is what it is. We deal with it just like everybody else does, but we do deal with it on a much smaller scale. When we hire people, we're vetting them like crazy. We're hiring certain personality types. Well, type A for sure.
Sales oriented, you want someone to go out and talk to the local businesses, talk to the competition, what are your rates? None of that data is secret anymore. So if you find someone who's outgoing and they're willing to put in the extra work, they're going to be the person that sticks around and you can reward them accordingly.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, most of the people that I've hired, I've known them for years. And I've pulled them out of their W-2 jobs and given them a reason to go and work 1099. And they're doing very well. Very well.
And yesterday you mentioned like you find these people like waitresses or like McDonald's.
Oh yeah, I love me a good waitress. Or a bartender that makes a stiff drink, that works too.
Any other tips, like where you would encounter?
So a lot of companies will tell you to go to like the local churches. I have found some success finding boots on the ground people at fire stations. Firemen. Yep. Great. I know a lot of companies say, look at retired people and veterans, things like that. I'm not opposed to it. I have run into situations where they've been perfect except for one thing, they can't get the technology. And I'm like, crap, well, you can't even take a payment. Now, you can mitigate that with things like call centers where people take payments and stuff like that. That's just a different management style. We've got time for one more question, and then we've got a break for lunch. Yes, sir.
Actually, I'd like to hear both of your opinions on this. What are the pros and cons versus lease up for all your leases being due first of the month, or just having an on
Do you convert everybody to first month?
Yes, we prorate them if they're not the first month. Once they're new, first of the month.
So Copper, once they're new, so the existing customers stay anniversary if that's what they are. Okay. Do you like prorating to the first of the month?
That's not the side of my work, but I would love to hear your opinion.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks having to explain to somebody that they're going to have to pay $32 plus the admin fee plus the tenant protection or / insurance fee, depending on what you got, plus because they're moving in on the 20th of November, and then on the 1st they're going to be charged full rent again. They're like, what? But I already paid. No, you're paying a prorated amount to come in, and then you're going to be due again. And it's very frustrating. I prefer anniversary billing. I do have 2 facilities that we took over, one last week or week before last in Lake Carmel, New York. That was first of the month billing. And the one we took over day before yesterday is first of the month billing. Everybody else that moves in, we're switching to anniversary. So basically we do the opposite. We don't have time for any more questions at the moment, but if you write it down, put it on the back table, we will get to it. Mr. Meyers, do you want to announce lunch and what we're doing? Yeah. Sweet. Hang tight.